Supposed to do this live yesterday, but apparently even after you verify your account, which I did months ago, YouTube is like, nope, you got to wait another 24 hours. It's like, okay, well. So my man Lee Boo, he had commented on one of my last videos, and he said, well, is this taking advantage of those drivers who just want to get into fuel hauling, you know? He probably doesn't sound like that, but you know. And he was saying, well, they're only paying $26 an hour for a sleeper driver. It's like, I can guarantee you nobody's making less than $20 an hour in a sleeper, on top of the $50 a day that they get in per diem. If anybody's actually in here. Man, I don't know how to work this. I'm such a boomer. Let's see. But, so, anyways, yeah, no, anybody in a sleeper is not making anything less than $28 an hour, because you get $1 an hour for being in the sleeper above whatever your region's base pay is. So if you're 27 to 29, you're getting at least 28 hours or $28 an hour in a sleeper. Out here, I'd be getting 35 an hour. It doesn't stack, so it's not, you know, if you're in the sleeper and you're on weekends and you're working nights too, it doesn't stack like that. Unfortunately, that'd be nice, you know, because you get up to like, what, 37 an hour starting, but it's good enough because they also, like I mentioned about a minute ago, they also get per diem, $50 a day per diem. So if you're in the truck 6 nights a week, it's $300 a week on top of whatever you're getting paid, which those guys are averaging, what, it's, they can legally work up to 84 hours on duty, and we get paid for all on duty time here. So in a week, within a week time period. So most of those guys, from what I've seen and from what I've talked to, they're averaging 70 to 80 hours a week, just depending on how busy it is. So that's 30 to 40 hours of overtime on top of the per diem pay. And then you start to add it up, and then it's like, oh yeah, no wonder they're making 160 an hour. Hey, what's up? What's up, DB? Shout out to you guys. Well, good. What are you talking about? Oh, no. All right. At least I know the chat's working now. Appreciate it. Am I gay? Good troll. Hey, keep the trolls PG, all right? Otherwise, I'm going to have to boot people, all right? I appreciate a good troll. Why are you gay? That's a classic, OG YouTube classic. But, yeah. So I just wanted to test this out because I haven't done a live before. Make sure it actually works. Make sure it's actually functioning properly. So, but otherwise, yeah. So if you just do the math, it's pretty simple as far as what you get paid on overtime, what you can actually make. And at the end of the day, too, every single sleeper position I've looked into, and I've looked into a bunch because there was one. Oh, fine. All right. Let's see. Yeah. Let's see. There we go. All right. Somebody always had to troll. That's fine. All right. So, anyways, getting back to it. Every sleeper position that I've looked into, they have posted, like near the very top, right after you get paid, is you can be out for up to 3 weeks at a time. They post that in every single sleeper position. They post that, and they also mention it to you when you talk to the recruiter. They mention it to you when you talk to the RM about any sleeper positions, because I've been interested in a few, so I've reached out. And they're like, are you sure you want to be up to 3 weeks on the road? And I said, no, not for me. So at the end of the day, they're going to inform you of the terms of the position. And it's up to you if you want to actually take it. Because if you don't want to take it and you're not willing to be on the road for 3 weeks at a time, and you don't think, 28 an hour minimum for sleeper pay is worth it, plus $50 per diem, then don't do it. It's up to you. You have to make that decision. But at the end of the day, how can you be taken advantage of if they're actually letting you know what the terms of the position are, right? So, yeah, let's see here. They just need attention. Yep, of course. See if I can make you. There we go. All right, DB. If anyone's not behaving in the chat, you can boot them. I think I made you a mod, but anyways, yeah. So if you guys, have any questions, obviously try and ask it in the chat here. Let's see if anyone's actually. So what are you talking about? So Labu had made a comment on a recent video, Loves is taking advantage of drivers who want to get in the sleeper for 26 an hour and be on the road for 3 weeks at a time. They're not being taken advantage of. Most people jump at the sleeper positions, and in fact, they're trying to get the most amount of money because you can work legally up to 84 hours a week. And so that's 44 hours of overtime. That's a lot of money. Now, most people don't hit 84 hours in a week. You're generally, maybe if you're lucky, you can get above 70, 75, 80 on the high end. But generally speaking, that's still a lot of money. It's still $3,000 a week you're clearing gross, even on the low end. So otherwise, yeah. So that's what we're talking about today, or anything else. If you guys have any questions as far as fuel hauling goes, let's see here. For 1,000. Okay. From Indonesia, what's up, man? That's a long ways away. How's it going? Must be it's got to be early morning in Indonesia. So, or actually, it's probably 12 or 1 in the morning in Indonesia, something like that. So anyways, yeah, so we're talking about fuel hauling. If you guys have any other questions in the chat, just put those in the chat. Certainly be happy to address them. And I'm just testing out this live feature because I have not messed around with it at all. So this is my first live. I figured I'd make sure it actually works before I go live with anybody else or live with any other topics. So again, if you want to do something, make sure it's actually amenable to 3 p.m. Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, 3 p.m. Oh, okay, gotcha. So it's not that late, but yeah, it's like almost 1 o'clock here. Wait, you mean 3 a.m.? Are you sure it's 3 p.m.? That doesn't make sense. Anyways, does love require you to be at your previous job 1 year before hiring you? Ideally, yes. The more time you have hauling fuel, the better it's going to be, because I was at Pilot for, let's see here. I was at Pilot for 1 year and 3 months before I came to Love's, and I had 1.5 years total of experience in fuel hauling before I was able to come to Love's. So the more fuel hauling experience, the better, especially in this market where everybody is trying to get a good, solid job in fuel hauling at a solid company. And I'm saying Love's, but any solid company that you want to stay at long term, it's going to still apply, because there's just not that many jobs out there right now. And so they're not dying for people like they were 3-4 years ago, where they were hiring on a pretty regular basis people without experience, versus now they're more looking for experience. Now, it doesn't mean like DB or Dirty Broke 215 actually posted that gal down in Oklahoma, I believe, who actually got hired on with 0 experience. And I'm not even just talking fuel experience, I'm talking driving experience. She got hired on, 0 driving experience, fresh out of school, and she got hired on. And so it's going to depend primarily on where you're trying to get hired, because some areas like down in Oklahoma, apparently, they're more willing to hire you on without any experience, or even just less driving experience than other areas. So it's going to depend completely on what market you're in, where you are, and how desperate they are for drivers there. Because at the end of the day, you know, it doesn't hurt to apply. If you don't have fuel experience and you still want to work at Love's, just apply. The worst thing they can say is no, and you know, maybe you need some more experience. All right, well then there you go. You just need some more experience. Again, I didn't come here with zero fuel hauling experience. It was a lot of experience. But let's get back to the chat here. Hey, what's up, one man? Let's see. I was just talking with somebody about the positions. Yeah. Is there anything that you don't like about your job? There's several things I don't like about my job, honestly. But at the end of the day, a job's a job. No job is perfect. You know, people who make a lot more than me as far as what they do for jobs, the reality is vast majority of jobs, you're getting paid to do something that nobody else or very few people want to do. At least if you're getting paid a lot, or you're being paid a lot because you have a highly sought after skill, and or that can be a combination of those two things. So I don't subscribe to the idea that you're going to love every aspect of your job. It's just not reality. And I like to live in reality, because then I'm not lying to myself or lying to those around me. But as far as what I don't like about it, I don't like having a slip seat, because I have not had good slip seats over the past several years in fuel hauling. Last almost coming up on 3 years that I've done fuel hauling. Not great slip seats, because they just trash the truck. They don't stay on time as far as, you know, showing up for your shift on time. They're late a lot. But it is what it is. And then working at night through the night, because I work 5 p.m. to or 5:30 to 5:30 a.m. So I work the entire night. I don't like it. No, I'd rather have a day shift. And I don't like working in the freezing cold. I don't like working on holidays if I'm scheduled to work them. But at the end of the day, you know, they pay me a lot of good money. So it is what it is. And it's a worthy trade-off for me. But that's not always going to be the case for everybody. You know, you have to decide, is it a worthy trade-off for you? So let's get back here. We don't want to miss anybody in the chat. You're in Las Vegas. Okay, cool. Yeah. So if you want to get hired by Love's, or any company for that matter, stick around for somebody at the stores. If you see one of us delivering at the stores, and we're not immediately unloading, just wait for us to unload, or before we start unloading, and say, hey, you know, I'm wanting to get hired on at Love's. How do you like your job? Just strike up a conversation with them. I promise we don't bite. Okay. We don't bite. Most of us are very friendly. We don't mind talking about the company, because a lot of us like working here. Doesn't mean you're not going to run into some disgruntled people who don't like working here. That's the case with every company. But most people are going to, if you take a few minutes of their time, they're not going to be bothered by that, especially if you're trying to ask questions. And if you take the time to develop that relationship and ask for phone numbers, and you explain, hey, I'm really trying to get into that company because I've done my research and I want to get into fuel hauling, they're going to help you out more often than not. And then you can ask for a referral. And if you ask for a referral and they give it to you, you're going to be put at the top of the list for the next opening that comes up, versus somebody who even has fuel hauling experience but doesn't have a referral. So get to know a driver, if not several, because I had to have 2 referrals. I didn't just have 1 referral. I had 2 referrals from 2 different drivers here to get here. So get a referral from a driver, and then ideally too, you already have fuel hauling experience. If not, you know, hopefully you have tanker experience. If not, at least you have some driving experience. And then again, it also vastly depends on how you sell yourself in the interview. For me, again, I explained, hey, I've done my research. I know that you know, if you give me the chance, I would like to retire with Loves and be a great long-term asset. So if you sell yourself like that, you're a lot more likely to get hired here. And on top of having a referral too. So let's see, shout out one man. Let's see, I got 5 years over the road experience, but no hazmat or tanker experience, but I don't have the endorsements. Oh, but I do have the endorsements. Okay. Yeah. So 5 years over the road is plenty of experience. At the end of the day, it's just a matter of keep applying, because I applied, I want to say it was at least 3 times before I got hired. I applied for 3 different positions, if not at least twice, before I got hired. And again, I had to get a referral. I had to stick my neck out, make that connection with 2 different drivers here before they actually gave me a shot and at least interviewed me. And then I sold myself well in the interview. I explained, again, I want to be a long-term asset to the company and I want to retire here. So that I did my research and all that jazz. So at the end of the day, if it's worth it to you, you're going to make the effort to either reach out to drivers and get referrals, or get the experience and go that way. But at the end of the day, just keep trying, especially if you want to make it into this company. I don't know if there's any other, I'm trying to think. I know Pilot's out in Las Vegas. There's another solid company. So if you can't get on here immediately, you could do what I did and get on with Pilot, stay there for a year or 2, and then if there's any openings here, apply. You know, it does. Worst thing they can say is no. So if you just apply and you still don't get selected for the position, doesn't mean you're not going to be next in line, or they're fresh on the recruiter's mind if they have another opening shortly after that. So keep your head up. If it's worth it, it's worth it. Because again, I didn't end up coming here for like 2.5 years after I had already discovered, you know, Dirty Broke 215's videos. So shout out to him again, or KDS Trucking's videos. And again, this was, you know, 2, 3, 4 years ago, even, where I was even thinking about doing fuel hauling. So it took a while. It took years to actually get here where I wanted to, but ultimately it was because I set myself up for success and I wanted to get to that goal of getting here. And I put in the effort. You know, doesn't mean it's always going to happen, but if you keep trying at a certain point, and again, our company's not for everybody. Doesn't mean there aren't great companies out there besides Loves. Sheets is another great one. Somebody was telling me about a company in the Northeast that hired on at like 30 plus an hour to, I can't remember the name of the company, but there's a lot of good fuel hauling companies out there. So then there's a lot of bad ones too. But at the end of the day, and I started out at one of those companies and got my experience, got my loading cards, and as soon as I realized my boss was lying to me and he had no issues lying to me, I was like, peace. I could jump for opening at Pilot, and I skedaddled over to Pilot. Got a year of experience over there and then came over here. So let's see here. What's going on, Charles? How's it going? Good afternoon. Are you on? I'm not on TikTok. I am not on TikTok. Exchange WhatsApp number over there, please. I tell you what, if you want to connect with me, you can always email me at chase.fisher, and that's FISCHER at loves.com. I'll actually put it in the description of this video, so you can email me there. I've had a couple people reach out there already, so I don't mind helping you out. I'm not going to hold your hand, so I'll point you in the right direction. And it's pretty much what I've already said on all my videos, and what I've kind of overlaid here as well is how to get hired. But I don't mind giving you some extra pointers. And again, I don't mind referring anybody, but as I told somebody else, I'm not likely to get you hired in any areas unless you're applying in the area that I work in. So that's Colorado, Wyoming, Nebraska. Because if my RM sees that I referred you, then he's going to contact me. But if you refer me in another area for a different regional manager, he's going to look at that and he's not going to know who I am, more than likely. So it could help, but it's not as necessarily as a shoe-in as much as you get to know somebody in the area that you're trying to get hired in, if that makes sense. But let's see here. Thanks for taking the time to put this information on. Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome, Lorena. Let's see here. Okay. Thank you, DB. Appreciate it. Well, it's close enough. Yeah, Fischer is Fischer. Germans like to add C's where they don't belong. But close enough. Let's see here. Just started for driving for Gemini last week here in Indiana. Your videos helped me a lot with the process. I appreciate it. Hey, glad I could help. At the end of the day, that's what this channel is all about, is trying to help other people get hired and tell people about fuel hauling, as well as some related but not directly related stuff, finances, personal finances, retirement, physical fitness, which I haven't done a video on that for a while. But all stuff that's related and helping people, have a long, successful career. So that's what it's all about. That's what I try to keep it about. So at the end of the day, if, my channel goes away tomorrow, I don't really care, so long as, because at the end of the day, I've already helped some people get hired, even indirectly. So that's what it's all about. That's really because I want to extend the ladder down to help people beyond what other people have already helped me. Because, Dirty Brook 215, KDS Trucking, and then some just third-party carrier guys who are in fuel hauling too. They helped me out in, at the very least, my research for why I wanted to get into fuel hauling. So I want to extend that offer to everybody else and help people get hired. So let's see. Yeah, okay. So I think I'm caught up on the chat. Yeah, so that's what it's all about. And, so if you have any questions, if you have any direct things you want to get addressed as far as fuel hauling goes, I try to put out videos about this stuff. Most of it's pretty simple. Most of it's common sense. It's kind of basic networking as far as trying to get hired on here. But at the end of the day too, it's not going to be for everybody. I'm not going to claim that fuel hauling is for everybody, because it's certainly not. It's pretty boring most of the time, because you're just going to the same stores over and over again. You might have a little bit of variation as far as different stores or different loading racks that you go to, and that helps. But at the end of the day, it's still pretty mundane. And so I think most people, and I could be wrong here, I'd be curious what your opinion is, if you're still here, and if you've gone, that's fine. But I think most younger guys they're not into that. I'd say a younger guy getting into fuel is certainly the exception rather than the rule, because it's just too mundane. It's not exciting enough. It doesn't scratch that itch. And that's fine. I'd say the average fuel hauler is probably in his 40s or 50s, or her 40s or her 50s. It's a very high average age job. And that's fine. I'd like to get some new guys in it, because again, it's about the consistency, and the best thing about it is the consistency. Last year I averaged 58 hours a week, and I didn't even feel like I had to really stretch it or, kill myself on hours, because, and I only worked, I think it was two 6-day weeks last year, where I was pushing my 70-hour clock. but every other week besides that has been really consistent. So you know what you're expecting as far as your money goes, as far as your weekly paycheck goes. We're paid weekly here. But even at places that you're not paid weekly, it still doesn't matter, because if you're in fuel hauling, it's still going to be far more consistent than any other trucking that I've done. And at the end of the day, that's going to beat something where you might gross like 3,500 in a week, but then the next week you're down to 1,800 or something like that. So I view this as the tortoise of trucking jobs, which is fine. I don't need to be in the hare jobs, because I've tried some of those jobs out and it's not a fit for me, but that's all I'll say. So you would agree? Okay. Yeah. So, and it's a shame, because I think, I would imagine most younger guys aren't into it because, again, they have to scratch that itch, and they're expecting their career to scratch that itch, which sometimes it can be, if you want to go join the military and go off and do adventurous stuff, no issues with that. I was in the military for 6 years myself, so I certainly understand that. But at a certain point, especially after you have a family, or at least a wife, that you're trying to take care of, you're looking for that consistency. You're looking for something that's going to provide that stability. And again, I'm not saying there's not other jobs out there that provide the same consistency, but as far as trucking goes anyways, fuel hauling has been by and large the farthest stretching as far as consistency goes, if that makes sense. It's been the most consistent. Again, I'll say it again, I have not had a week where I was working 5 days in that week. I've not had a week where I was working less than 48 hours in almost 3 years. And it's been, by and large, I would say the average of the last 3 years has been much closer to 60 hours a week, if not above that. Because when I was at Pilot, and if it matters, if you're just all about the hours and working crazy hours, at least in my area anyways, I can't speak to any other areas. Pilot had a little bit more consistency in hours, where you could work, 64 hours a week on a pretty regular basis, because I was coming in, my slip seat at the time at Pilot was off on Saturdays and Sundays. And so I would come in early, because I was 4 p.m. to 4 a.m. at Pilot. I'd come in at 2 p.m. pretty much every Saturday and Sunday. And then I'd still work 12 hours on the other 3 days. So I was 63, 64 hours a week for pretty much my entire time, on top of however many 6 days I worked at Pilot, which I think it was like 10 weeks within my first year. I probably worked, it was probably above that too for my total year and some change. I think I probably worked like 13 or 14 6-day weeks at Pilot. And so you could even actually technically work a little bit more over there, at least in my area. But again, the pay differences, at least at the time, and they've since bumped up the pay, but the time that I was there, it was a $5.50 an hour raise coming to Love's versus staying at Pilot. And so even if you work the extra hours, you're still making more here. I think it worked out to where I was making at Pilot, I would have to work a 60-hour week to make the same amount of money as a 53-hour work week here at Love's. Now that's since changed, so I'm sure it'd be closer to like, I think, depending upon the shift, because I think their base pay, Pilot's base pay around here is 32, is their lowest, $32 an hour to 34.50. Yeah, 34.50 is the highest you can make at Pilot. So, and versus ours is 34 starting at the low end up to 36, but we get yearly raises. They don't. Theirs are sporadic. The raise that they just got from, because they were at 30 to 32.50 an hour, and then they bumped up to 32 to 34.50. So that bump it took them about 3 years to get that bump. And so based on that, I actually was making fun of my buddy at Pilot because he's a lead driver over there, and he makes, I think, 50 cents an hour more than I do. He's at 37 for being a lead driver. And come in September, I actually might make slightly more than him as a lead driver at Pilot, just, being a driver here at Love's. But anyways, looks like I've addressed all of the chat. So I appreciate you guys showing up. I'm glad to see that this actually works. So otherwise, let me see if I actually got everybody here. Yeah. Okay. Looks like I got everybody in the chat. So otherwise, appreciate you guys showing up. And what's up? Hey, what's up, Pony Up? How's it going? Otherwise, I will see you guys on the next one. Appreciate it. If you have any questions, I believe Dirty Broke, he put my email. Yeah, he put my email in there. So if you have any direct questions, I'd be happy to help you out. Just email me at that link that Dirty Broke posted. Otherwise, I will see you guys on the next one. Take care. God bless. Let's see if I can end this.